Getting a job after engineering can be very challenging, especially if you're a recent graduate or have studied civil. What companies usually do is they advertise for entry position. Now this is what you're looking for. But when you look a bit more in detail, you find that they are looking for people with up to 5 years of experience and they already have more than 200 applicants. This can be very annoying, so in this video I will share with you my experience when I was looking for my first job. For step 1, this is very common amongst most engineers, which is overconfidence. In this stage, most of the students think that they can get into the best companies in the world and they make only 4 or 5 applications. This is not a very smart move. As you can see in this graph here, as your confidence increases, the chances of you actually finding a job decreases exponentially. All you need to do is come back to reality, else you'll end up making YouTube videos like me during my 20s. This brings me on to step 2, denial. Surprisingly, the 5 companies you applied to haven't responded to your application as of yet. But you're an engineer and you're better than the rest, and so you decide to give it some more time. Suddenly 2 months have passed by. It is very easy to get trapped in this time loop for a few months or even a few years. The people in the latter category go on to do a PhD. This brings me on to step number 3, panic. If you're not stuck in the time loop, you will start applying to as many companies as possible. These jobs have little or no relevance to your background or ambitions. This does more harm than any good. You will lose track of all your applications and won't be able to focus on the companies that actually matter. To help you find a set of suitable jobs, try and fit it within the scale. So as you can see, on the left we have your specialization and on the right we have your salary expectation. Ideally, you want to find a job that sits perfectly in between. On a serious note, most of my colleagues apply to at least 40 companies. The only benefit of this is that you get better every time you go through an interview process. Suppose you've made it through to the next round, you will see that the company has sent you an email. Don't get very excited as this is just an automated email asking you to do a psychometric test. In this paper, they often ask you dumb questions like basic maths and pattern recognition. For example, they might ask you something like this. All you need to do is identify what comes next. Little do they know that you are creative as f and you can think outside the box. You can clearly see here that someone has taken 3 pieces of the pie. When you put it all together, you get something like this. The final stage is the interview process. This can be very scary, but just remember it is somehow worse for the interviewer than it is for you. But don't worry, they always start with generic questions. Immediately you realize that you don't have anything interesting about yourself apart from the fact that you have done engineering just like the thousands of other students around the world. The interviewer will then go on to ask you more generic questions like describing yourself. This is where the panic really sets in. You realize that you have forgotten everything about yourself and you struggle to say anything sensible. Don't worry, you will get better over time, and by that I mean a few years. I just want you to keep one thing in mind. Before your next interview, the question is not to ask if you are ready for this interview, but instead, is the interview ready for me? All these 5 stages can be easily combined in 3 simple words. Just be yourself.